Chief Greg Flynn joins us once again from the West Bloomfield Fire Department. Chief Flynn, thank you for being with us today.
Good morning.
We appreciate having you on. How are you? How are your firefighters doing?
Well, I'm doing great, thank you. The team here at the WBFD is doing well. We continue to, again, evaluate kind of our status here in the whole COVID response, which we're really moving more into a COVID as part of our daily activities. I think we've moved closer to hey, this is the routine. This is what we're doing. Folks aren't nervous now when we're showing up in masks. In fact, they're glad to see us in masks. We're glad to see that when a caller calls 911 and they have their face covering on when we arrive. It shows a great deal of respect to the responders and a great deal of respect to our community. And we're grateful to the many, many, many residents that are doing the right thing and taking some civic responsibility to mitigating COVID spread within West Bloomfield, Orchard, Kego, and Sylvan.
In recent weeks, as businesses have reopened and as businesses now have had to readjust with the governor's mask order, how critical has education to the outward community, particularly the business community in West Bloomfield and the areas that in the Tri-Cities, been for your team at the fire department? And how critical has it been for other fire departments locally to inform these businesses of best practices as they work to enforce these issues and put their best foot forward to provide safe environments for their customers?
Well, good education, I think, is the qualifier there, Tyler. There's so much information out there, and I heard, some of the build up here for the show and the headlines there as you guys started off the program today. So much information out there and so much misinformation. So much information that is portraying everybody as wearing masks that's going to protect them from getting the disease, not understanding the physical barrier that a face covering provides as of just a permanent covering your cough type approach. What physical distancing really is trying to do, which is when someone doesn't have a mask on and they can't cover that cough, that the physical distance is part of a mitigation strategy. So much of this discussion is turned into what I have a right to do or what I can do. And, I won't engage in this argument with folks. You can do destructive things. You can do things that are hurtful to our community. I get that. I understand that. What we want to engage with, and I think what so many businesses want to engage with, are residents and customers that want to take some personal responsibility, some civic responsibility, so that truly this hashtag "we're all in this together" means something. And we're doing it here. I want to highlight, one of my highlights of the day is lunchtime, right? And so we have, as a staff, tried to get out more in the community. And I can tell you, if I go into Jersey Mike's to get a sandwich, the staff has on their face coverings. People have on their face coverings. If I walk in with the FD staff and the staff there is working and someone comes on and they don't have a mask, we might give a gentle reminder like, hey, if you forgot your mask, go grab it. Or, if we can keep our distance, if you're not able to wear a mask, just be respectful of the staff. We can find our way through this in a very kind and helpful way throughout the community. So I think that education is important, and making sure that people aren't reading misinformation that masks and face coverings are this harmful thing to the masses. It's a false narrative, and it's something that we just need to move past. We don't need to give it a bunch of time to discuss here. We just need to continue to reinforce what right looks like.
Chief Greg Flynn with us from the West Bloomfield Fire Department on the Oakland County Megacast on a family of TV and radio stations. In terms of capacity, there are capacity limits at a lot of these places, and they've rearranged how these businesses have had to rearrange in many ways how they have their stores aligned and how they have their stores ready for the public to come in. How influential has the fire department been in helping them continue to modify that, so not only do they have safe spaces for COVID-19, but in the event of other hazards such as a fire or a medical emergency, that it's still the most opportune situation for responding to that emergency?
Well, I do want to take a quick moment here just to highlight an event that took place this morning, Tyler, as we talk about safety. We did have a small structure fire this morning that was contained to a small room in a lower level of a home. And I want to highlight exactly what the residents did. Their smoke alarms went off. They called 911. They got out of the house. They stayed out of the house. Fire department responded very quickly, extinguished it, and everybody is safe, and we're moving forward. I share that story with you because that approach, what I just explained to you, has been a proven strategy for mitigating fire spread within a structure. What we're talking about here today is how do we prevent the spread of a virus? And there are very, very simple things that we've been saying since day one of this show. Since day one, wash your hands, keep some physical distance between you and others when you're not able to cover your cough and you're not able to wear a face covering. If we do those things, we can mitigate that spread. Just like when we do the things with fire attack and keeping the fire from spreading, it works. It works. And so our smoke alarm, all of these statistics I have up on my screen in front of me that's showing you the zip code for Oakland County. And I know you guys have referenced this from the Oakland County dashboard. We're in it. West Bloomfield, the Tri-Cities, we are in it. We are some of the darker shaded areas showing the higher density on the map. And we, I think, are going to get through this best when we put aside some of the false narratives, some of the misinformation, and we just continue to go forward with good strategies. So those business owners need our business. We want them to survive. So I'm going to do the right thing, and I'm going to wear my mask. I'm going to do the right thing not as a first responder, but as the fire chief going out to lunch with other staff, just like staff all over our township within their different places of employment. When we get into the vehicle, all of us in fire administration, we all put our masks on the way to the vehicle if they're not already on from being in the office. But we come out of our individual workspaces because we're going to be in a confined space now where we can't respect some physical distancing. Tyler, I feel like and Ronnie, I feel like it's this repetitive record that almost sounds broken, and we're losing our audience because they're tired of hearing the same thing over and over again, and that they feel it's not working because the numbers are starting to go up again. And I want to push back on that. It's not that it's not working. It's just that we're not all doing it at the same time. Florida is feeling what we were feeling back in the middle of March, right?
Yeah.
The headlines, the interviews, the stories feel like deja vu, with ERs becoming crowded and doctors and nurses at their wits' end as far as availability of PPE. We've heard this story before. We've lived through it. And so different pockets are always going to pop. A Northern Michigan outbreak, they're going to feel that pain. We've been through. Why would we want someone to have to experience that again when we can simply do hand washing, physical distancing, and cover our cough and anything coming from our mouth and nose with a face covering? It's so simple, but yet we're making it so very difficult.
Chief Greg Flynn from the West Bloomfield Fire Department with us on the Oakland County MegaCast. Chief Flynn, just a few more minutes with you before we got to let you go. In terms of other common safety issues that we see over the summer, whether it be on the water, whether it be in the home, whether it be just in the general areas of the public, what are some common issues that you run into as a fire department from the community over the summer months that people should maybe be more aware of now to keep themselves, their families, and others safe?
Well, we always want to emphasize the need to go over your escape plan with everybody in the home. And you're never too young or too wise to review your escape plan. And remember, 2 ways out is an important part of that. And your meeting place, once you're outside of the house, that is by the big tree in the front yard or somewhere away from the driveway or the road. Because remember, those emergency vehicles are going to be coming up very quickly to your house, and we don't want you standing in the road. So I want to start there. Other things that come up, the safety on the water is paramount. Making sure that people have vests. I know there was an incident on the water up in the northern part of the township, up in the Tri-Cities area over the weekend, and we just want to make sure that everybody is aware of the responsibility that comes with enjoying the water. And all of us play a role in that. All of us do. So even when we see another boater in distress or something, we play a role in keeping the community safe. And then I guess the third point is as we're running different pieces of machinery or heating, cooling systems and things like that in your homes, making sure that all of those are ventilating. You're changing your air filters in your furnace. because your air conditioning's running through there, and we want to keep that air flowing and making sure that belts and fans aren't working any harder than they have to, because those are the things that start to burn up or work extra hard and smoke up and spread the odor through the house. And someone will call in what we call an odor investigation, where they smell something burning in their house. Two spots we usually check: dead flies on top of those old halogen lamps with the light bulb that used to face upwards, and the dishwasher for something plastic that's fallen onto the heating element. Those are two go-to spots for odor investigations. And after that, we start checking furnaces and other places where people have power strip plugged into power strip, plugged into extension cord. Bad ideas. Those are the things that usually we run into a problem with, even in the summertime.
Chief Flynn.
Chief, if I could ask you a quick question, because I was on the lake this weekend and it is packed out there. When people are on the lake or they're on the sandbar, how do you convince them to keep their social distance and to wear a face mask in those types of situations? Or is that okay not to because they are outside?
So I think the way we need to phrase some of that, Ronnie, is we need to say that we want to mitigate risk. So I think too many of our conversations are taking place in absolutes. So the different risk thresholds some of us have, we all have different risk thresholds. And what we're saying is that outside your risk becomes lower because there's more airflow and in theory, less likelihood of disease transmission, because the virus has so many different directions to go, as compared to you and I sitting in the studio across the table from each other, just 1 foot apart. Now your risk threshold rises. We want to mitigate risk, meaning we want to make it less. So can you do it on the sand? Can you mitigate risk on the sandbar? I think you can. Now I don't frequent that, so I'm guessing from your description that there are just so many people. And that's where this comes in. Maybe you spend a little bit of time on the sandbar, an hour or so, and then we make room for someone else to come out and enjoy it, because we can't mitigate risk if we're all on the sandbar. And so we've got to come up with some strategies as a community. And I think that's where people want government to step in and say, you make the rules. And that's where I guess I'm just asking for citizens to say, we know what's going on here. Let's us figure this out. We don't need someone to come out and necessarily police what's happening. We need to start saying, hey, let's share this resource, because we know we can't all be here right now, because that puts our risk level too high. And we don't want to put our community at risk. And I hope that ownership will help move us into some better decision making. But I guess more directly to your question, Ronnie, I think that becomes a very difficult nut to crack, because you get such a short boating season in Michigan, and the weather has been wonderful for boating, right? So everybody wants to do it. And who's going to be the one to say no to that? And then that's where conflict comes in. And now I think we take our risk level and go even higher for other things within the community. So I'm not trying to dodge your question. I'm just saying that we need to create more personal ownership in how we're going to enjoy some of these very valued spots within our community. But we have to do it differently. And I would leave it to those folks that have the most experience there to come up with some of that. Quit just throwing it in our face and saying, we just can do it. We know you can do it. What we're saying, is it worth the risk to our community? And many of us are saying overwhelmingly, no, it's not worth it. We can do better.
Chief Flynn, thank you for being with us today.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thanks for having me on.